During World War II, fire wasn't just a threat from the sky. It was on the battlefield, in the air, and, well, sometimes even on soldiers' very skin. Incendiary bombs, flamethrowers, burning oil, and phosphorus shells turned every combat zone into a potential inferno. Soldiers quickly realized that fire was an enemy that couldn't be shot or outrun. But what if a simple paste could stop a uniform from catching fire? It sounds like something out of a survival manual, yet it was real. A chemical mixture, developed in secrecy, that could make cotton, wool and canvas resist flames long enough to save lives. This forgotten wartime discovery didn't just protect uniforms. It laid the foundation for the fire-retardant fabrics we still use in firefighting, aviation and survival gear today. As the war escalated, fire-based weapons evolved into tools of mass destruction. The Allies dropped magnesium and napalm bombs over occupied cities, while the Axis powers used phosphorus grenades and oil-based flame units in close combat. Soldiers inside tanks, bunkers, and aircraft faced a terrifying reality. If fire reached them, escape was often impossible. Standard military uniforms, usually made of cotton or wool, burned quickly. Cotton flared up in seconds, and wool, though slower to ignite, smouldered and melted against the skin. Military scientists began searching for ways to make fabrics that could resist direct flames. They didn't need the material to be invincible, only to hold out long enough for the wearer to survive. That's where the idea of a fireproofing paste was born, a chemical coating that could be applied directly onto clothing or canvas, forming a temporary flame barrier. The origins of this paste can be traced to early British and American laboratory experiments around 1940. Chemists realized that certain minerals could interrupt the combustion process by releasing non-flammable gases when heated. Compounds like borax, ammonium phosphate, and sodium tungstate became central ingredients. When these were mixed into a thick water-based paste and applied to fabric, they bonded to the fibers and created a thin protective shell. When exposed to fire, this coating would char and bubble instead of burning, releasing a layer of gas that smothered the flame. Soldiers in field trials reported that uniforms treated with the paste could withstand open flame for up to 10 seconds without igniting, an eternity on the battlefield. The United States Army Quartermaster Corps even developed a field version that troops could mix on their own using locally available materials: borax, alum, water and clay dust. In combat, every second mattered. The paste gave soldiers those critical moments to roll, smother flames, or escape a burning vehicle. It wasn't perfect. It made uniforms slightly heavier and could wash out in heavy rain. But it was better than nothing. In an era before modern Nomex or Kevlar fabrics, it was a revolutionary step. The fireproof paste wasn't something soldiers just painted on and forgot about. It required preparation and care. In the field, the paste was typically mixed into a thick, creamy consistency, sort of like wet plaster. Uniforms were dipped into large tubs or brushed down by hand, making sure there was even coverage all over. Once the paste dried, it left a faint, chalky residue, and, a slightly stiff texture. Maintenance was crucial. The coating lost effectiveness after exposure to rain or washing, so really reapplication was often recommended every few weeks in active combat zones. Units stationed near flamethrower or demolition teams were prioritized for treatment. Some field manuals even provided rough formulas: 1 part borax, 1 part alum and 3 parts water, applied in 2 layers. For survivalists today, this same principle can be recreated safely and effectively. You can make a simple fire retardant coating by mixing borax and boric acid in warm water and soaking natural fabrics like cotton canvas. When dried, the treated cloth will resist flames for several seconds before burning, making it ideal for tents, gear wraps, or protective clothing for welding or outdoor cooking. Always test it carefully, but the chemistry behind it still works. After the war, the lessons learned from this paste evolved into the industrial fireproofing industry. Chemical engineers refined the formula into permanent treatments, embedding fire retardants directly into synthetic fibres. The earliest versions of modern flame-resistant uniforms for pilots and firefighters were direct descendants of the Second World War paste. By the 1950s, materials like Proban and later Nomex built on the same principles, using phosphorus and boron-based compounds to prevent combustion. In essence, the wartime paste taught researchers that fire resistance didn't have to rely on metal or heavy armour. Instead, chemistry could protect soldiers just as effectively. This discovery also influenced civil defence strategies during the Cold War, where citizens were encouraged to treat curtains, tents, and even clothing with borax-based solutions in case of incendiary attacks. The practicality and low cost of the formula made it an accessible defence measure for both militaries and civilians. The fireproof paste story isn't just about chemistry, it's about adaptability under pressure. It reminds us that survival on the battlefield often depended not on advanced machinery, but on practical problem-solving. Soldiers, engineers, and field chemists worked together to make something out of nothing, using everyday materials to counter one of nature's most dangerous forces. For today's survival enthusiasts, that same mindset applies. Understanding the principles behind the paste can help you prepare for extreme conditions without high-tech gear. In an emergency, treating fabric with a borax solution can slow ignition, buying you precious time. And beyond that, it's a reminder that resilience often begins with knowledge. Knowing how to use chemistry, physics, and a little ingenuity to protect yourself when resources are limited. For historians, the story fills an overlooked gap between technology and necessity. The fireproof paste represents the intersection of science and survival, where small innovations saved countless lives without ever being mentioned in the headlines. The fireproof paste soldiers spread on their uniforms may have faded from history books, but its legacy endures in every flame-resistant fabric used today. It was a product of wartime necessity, a blend of resourcefulness, chemistry, and courage. From factory workers under air raid sirens to tank crews facing napalm, this humble paste turned ordinary fabric into a temporary shield against one of the deadliest weapons of the era. If you enjoyed uncovering this piece of forgotten wartime ingenuity, subscribe to In the Beginning. Share this episode with fellow history and survival enthusiasts, and help keep the spirit of these lost innovations alive. Because sometimes the smallest battlefield inventions carry the greatest lessons. Lessons that still matter for anyone who believes survival begins with knowledge.